Nick Sheridan is named as the offensive coordinator because Ryan Grubb took the offensive coordinator position with the Seattle Seahawks. So Kalen Deboer and Alabama go with the internal hire in Nick Sheridan, who was the tight ends coach, and has somebody who's followed Kalen Deboer around to multiple stops and kind of behind him in multiple stops. So what is your thoughts on the Ryan Grubb situation? I think it's really unfortunate that obviously you lose your offensive coordinator this late in the game, but I mean they have a guy that's been in that system, and obviously Kalen DeBoer feels pretty good about bringing this guy in and naming him the offensive coordinator. So, what say you on the Alabama O coordinator position and Ryan Grubb taking off to the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Grubb leaving for the NFL is not that unexpected in my mind. I think that had Washington given him more of a look, he might be the Washington head coach right now. But obviously that didn't happen. He goes to Seattle, becomes the offensive coordinator there. And I always wonder too, when this happens, I wonder if the thought was Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer both go to Seattle, and maybe those conversations happened and Kalen DeBoer kind of realized he wasn't going to get that opportunity. And that's what led him to the Alabama job. The other thing that's interesting is the timing of it. This happens right after recruits are able to, leave and all. And so Alabama, if you don't know, they go out and sign Ryan Williams. They do earn his commitment, and seemingly right after that, Ryan Grubb is like, "Hey, I'm out." His offensive coordinator, who he thought he was going to be playing under, just up and dips, and now and not saying he wouldn't have chosen Alabama if Ryan Grubb never came over in the move for Kalen DeBoer, but it is interesting the timing of it all. I don't blame coaches for doing it this way. I think it benefits the program to retain as much talent as possible, obviously. But it is kind of sad that this happens sometimes. As far as Nick Sheridan, I really think that he is not going to be calling plays. I think that Kalen DeBoer will be calling plays, and Nick Sheridan will be sort of the underling and the backup, almost like a co-offensive coordinator, and he'll be learning the system so that eventually, hopefully, if you're Kalen DeBoer, you're going to be able to take your hands off the reins and let him handle the offense. Going back to a point earlier in the show, it's really tough to be an offensive coordinator and a head coach, right? Kalen DeBoer didn't have to do that with Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb had it all figured out, and now he's going to have to go back and duplicate that with Nick Sheridan. I think obviously Alabama is better with Ryan Grubb than with Nick Sheridan, but I also think that there's a way that this ends up working out for Alabama. And look, I've kind of given up on them being, SEC contenders this year, but next year in the system, Nick Sheridan could step up and learn a little bit more. Also, Mark, we were talking about it earlier, but doesn't it seem like Nick Sheridan, and I'm going to pull a picture up for you here, but doesn't it seem like he could be Mike Leach reincarnate? He's gonna
Lives
be
again.
offensive coordinator. Guy looks just like freaking a young Mike Leach. Like college football. I mean, the college football gods are upon us, and they have reincarnated the pirate. And now all we need is some witty humor and some good pirate and war jokes
Well,
from Nick
they
Sheridan.
always said that, I mean, pirates, man, those are some blunderish souls. So who's to say this guy wasn't going around slinging it around, and then there's his illegitimate son? I mean,
That's true.
you never know. I mean, I'm gonna go. I'm just starting that rumor right now. That's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. Is just go ahead and start that rumor that this is Mike Leach's illegitimate son. I'm gonna call him Mike Leach Jr.
There
I'm
we
gonna
go.
call him Mike Leach Jr. and hopefully he doesn't disgrace me on that. But
I think that name will stick.
I think so. y'all. Now I'm gonna say it, and y'all are gonna know who I'm talking about. So, inside joke there on the First and Long College Football Show. But yeah, to look, I think that you're absolutely correct in the fact that Kalen Deboer is clearly going to be calling the plays here, or at least a very strong hand in the offensive play calling, and I think that's going to be necessary. Um, I did pull up Alabama's schedule. I'm not going to share it on the screen here, but I just wanted to highlight, some of these games that are coming up this year. September 14th, that's the third week of the season. You got an on the road non conference game at Wisconsin. I think that's a big deal. Obviously, the Georgia game, September 28th, you got a bye week before that. I think that works out very nicely. Get the Georgia Bulldogs at home. You got Tennessee on the road, Missouri at home, LSU on the road, Oklahoma on the road, and Auburn at home to end the year. So, really tough schedule. I think the bye weeks line up really nicely, except for that Missouri game. I think that Missouri game is set up. That's a tough one. Not a trap game necessarily, not a game that you're looking forward to after that, obviously, because there's a bye, but just a very physical football game that's going to be played on October 26th against the Mizzou Tigers. But there's not much time to get this thing going, man. There's not a whole lot of time to get off the runway here. So I think it's going to be really important that whoever's calling the plays gets a handle on it very quickly and gets this team acclimated very quickly, because eh, this is really short notice here. I mean, we've got spring practice coming up in 2 months, man, and I know this is a very talented team, but I'm not in love with the outlook on Alabama right this second for this season. I know that, like I said, they're one of the most talented, if not the most talented team in America. Um, but that they were last year too, and this offense had a lot of struggles with the best coach in college football ever. So to think that somebody's going to come in and just take the torch and run with it in general is, I think, a stretch. And with that schedule, like I said, you better get the plane off that runway quickly. Anything else on Bama before we move on here?
No, I completely agree. I I'm intrigued by Alabama this year, but
I'm super intrigued. I'll be watching every game.
yeah, but I'm super skeptical of them being competitive in the SEC, and I'm also not like I honestly, if they win 7 games, I'm not gonna freak out about it, right? But
Mhm.
with that schedule that you just told me about, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they lose 5 games.
Yeah,
So, now if they don't go bowling, then yeah, I've got some concerns.
that's a
But
red flag. Yeah,
that's a little bit of a red flag. But um it's not easy. It's not easy to come into the SEC and play really, high level football right away with a new team. So give them a couple of years, and then we'll know if Kalen Deboer is going to work out. I think he will in the long run, but it's going to be a tough first year. But again, I'm super intrigued. I'll be watching.
well, all Kalen DeBoer has done is exceed expectations, and here we go again, laying the gauntlet down for him to exceed expectations once again. So never say never in college football. Crazier things have happened, and he's done some pretty wild things at Washington. Who was, I mean, let's just be real. Washington was in shambles whenever he took over, after the Jimmy Lake era there. So who's to say? Who's to say? I just think this was a really big hit. I think it's unfortunate. Um, you know, to lose somebody like Ryan Grubb, obviously in the 11th hour. We watched Georgia lose Todd Monken last year, and hired Mike Bobo, and really didn't skip a beat. So is it possible that the Alabama offense, could possibly improve upon last year with Tommy Reese calling the plays? I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm not saying that's impossible, because you know, is Nick Sheridan that much worse than Tommy Reese? I don't think I don't think so. I think Tommy Reese was a coach with something to prove. Now he had the best mentor ever, you know, as his boss. So this is a bit different. I'm straddling both sides of the fence here. I know, but I think there is a possibility that it could work out. But in my honest opinion, I think it's going to be a bit of a learning process for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's keep it.